Hello, everybody. So we are live. so,
Hi.
so apparently you can see us. No, you could. We were chatting with you before. Isalin was chatting. Now, can you see us also? Yes.
Hi,
Okay. So
Jakob.
it's perfect. Exactly. Hi, Jakob.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Hansa.
Nice, nice. Everybody's here. And so, as you can see, we are testing a new tool that is much cheaper than Zoom. And
To be honest.
to be honest, and so we are very interested to see how it goes. And we've done lots of testing, so we're like hoping everything goes well, but it should be fine.
It's
Yeah.
generally good, so you know it. And Jacob's like, as far it looks good. Okay, yeah. Okay, so everybody on Crowdcast. Okay, so we should start. Maybe, yeah, we should start as usual. Okay, let me share the screen. So, can you see my slides?
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
was like, why nobody's answering now? Okay. For those that are new, let me introduce you SEOnerdSwitzerland. For those that are used to SEOnerdSwitzerland, we are very happy that you are still here and you are very happy to hear the introduction once again. Yeah. SEO North Switzerland is an association. It was created by Isaline and I. The goal is to share SEO knowledge. We, our main goal is just to meet other people doing SEO in Switzerland. What happened is then with coronavirus, it became much larger. So we decided to keep it online because we saw that it was super cool. We have nice speakers as the one of today, and the community is growing. So it was just fantastic to have you all here and have this like virtual meetup. So let's say thank you to the sponsors. One of our sponsors is Liip. It's the company that I work for, by the way. It's a development company, so thank you so much for Liip for supporting us. The second sponsor, oops, let me hide this. You probably know it. If you're looking for a job, you know it for sure. Is working SEO. Italin is the head responsible of how you want to call it for working SEO. So you probably know the podcast is it becomes quite famous our podcast, but there is also the job board, which is dedicated for SEO career. I don't know, Isaline, if you want to add something on that.
Um, well, the podcast is mainly about stories and just getting to learn other SEOs and what they went through. And for each podcast, we focus on usually one topic, and it's really about stories and, just welcoming everyone in the community and just seeing that everybody's different, but we all have the same questions, and it's gonna feel really good to know that. So yeah, and the season 2 is about to be available, so I'm really excited about that.
Fantastic. I am happy because I love your podcast. So, next guest, Miriam will be our next guest. She's quite funny. She's smart and funny. So, a fantastic combination. And she will be with us next time. So, what else? Isaline? No? This was the last slide. You want to say something?
Yeah, you can tweet about Busra and us. It helps us very much to share the message, and also we're always happy to know that that you enjoy what we do. So, but I'm going to share that in the slides once I finish talking. So you can have easily the links and stuff.
Perfect. So, let me stop sharing the screen. Can I always stop sharing the screen? No, this is close video. Wait, I did it like 10 times and now I have doubt. Okay. I did doubt, when you go live, you have the
Yes.
doubt. Oh, I'm doing it wrong now. It is
Now,
correct, yeah. Okay, sorry. Go.
yes, it's correct. Now I'm gonna share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
Hi everyone, greetings from Istanbul, Turkey. I'm Busra. Today I'm going to talk about what content SEO should know about technical SEO. I said content SEOs, but you don't have to be an SEO at this point because this presentation is mainly for content writers who are managing a website. And there are some sad stories and sarcastic stories I experienced at the beginning of my career, and I wanted to share them with you. Introduction about myself. I'm Bishra. I live in Turkey and I'm an SEO manager at Busra. 6 years ago, I started my career as a content writer for a B2B website. And up to now, I created tons of content strategies for B2B and B2C companies. Working is not the only thing I do, of course. I'm a huge fan of Japanese animes and mangas, and I also love taking lots of photos. You can find me on my Instagram with my name and surname, of course, if you want to follow me. And this is a small indicator that this talk does not include anything about keyword research and search intent concepts. Of course, they are so important for content SEO, but here is some reading materials for you as a beginning point, because this talk will include topics mainly for technical SEO. And you might ask, what is technical SEO according to you, of course? The technical SEO is any operations, including the knowledge of how a website works, how search engine works, and how Google crawls and indexes web pages. So to be more specific, any optimization you make to help Google crawl and index your website correctly is actually a topic of technical SEO. Why do I love telling this story? Because I believe that one's mistakes can be other person's solutions, and learning from my mistakes during the beginning of my career was a big source of motivation for me. Of course, I was so lucky because I was working at the startup environment. Everyone was learning something from their mistakes, and luckily they didn't fire me after making some of these huge mistakes, and I love them, and greetings for them too. So this is the story of how I turned into an SEO from an newbie content editor. Of course, this slides does not include the whole process because there's a 6 year of story there, but I want to share with you some fatal mistakes I made so that you can learn about them and don't do the same mistakes like me in your careers. So almost 6 years ago, not completely 6 years ago, I was looking for a job and I was hired as a content editor for a B2B website. And they told me that I was going to be responsible for also SEO related tasks, but obviously I had no knowledge about SEO at that time. And they told me that don't worry, you can learn it, you can read about it, you will have time, you can learn it as long as you are creative, nothing will be a problem. And I was like this. Okay, I'm so motivated. I love writing. I can be creative, of course. There won't be a problem and I'm gonna rock this job. However, it doesn't turn out like that because after a while I realized that writing creative content was not enough for managing a website, because when you publish a piece of content, people will expect organic traffic and organic conversions in the future from that piece of content, because everything you write should have a return of investment. And that's the problem for me, because I had only knowledge about creative writing creative. So I was just shocked, like this Jackie Chan meme here. And my story as a struggling content writer starts from here. For example, one day I created a campaign page. We had a really big campaign, and it was about a really important keyword in Turkey. And I created a really good content marketing page. The motto of the campaign was really good. I put all of the keywords in it because at that point I learned keyword research at least. And I felt like the queen of everything because we published the page and everything was okay. The campaign started with a problem, but one day my manager told me that we are not ranking for a specific keyword, campaign related keywords, and we don't have any organic traffic coming for the page. And I was shocked because up to that time I always thought that I did everything correctly, and it was a huge disappointment for me. And I was trying to look for the culprit here, of course, because I didn't think that I was the one. And I asked it to the web developer, and the web designer told me that the page template I used for creating that campaign page had no index attribute by default, so it couldn't be visible on search, obviously. And I was like this. I remember that I was about to cry because all of the stuff I had to do, all of my pain, all of my work was vain for me because it wasn't visible on search. But I didn't just give up about it. I didn't cry. And I was trying to understand what no index attribute means at that point because I had no knowledge about no index. What is indexing? Then I start learning, I start reading, and I came across with the term crawling, indexing, and ranking. So it's not about only indexing. There are some fancy words here. So there's something called crawling, together with indexing and ranking. So what are these stuff? I remember wondering like that, of course. And let's dive into a little bit into it. So search engines aim to give the most relevant and high quality results as soon as we enter a keyword to them. So actually they are using for us, they are trying to show the best results for us when we look for something on search, because there are billions of pages around the world. There are a lot of information out there, and they're trying to help us to find the best one out of them. And you may ask, how do they know which page to show? Actually, the answer is easy. They get help from their friends called spiders. Don't worry, they are not real spiders. You may hear them called as spiders, Google bots, etc., or Bing bots, whichever search engine you are using. And these search engines send them out to crawl a website, and this starts the crawling, indexing, and ranking process. Actually, Martin It has a really good allegory for this. He just resembles all the crawling, indexing, and ranking process to a library, a full functioning library. I won't go into too much detail because I think he explains it better than me, but as a small summary, just think of a very big library, and there is a librarian working in it. And this librarian come across a really new book, and the librarian and the library, of course, have no knowledge about this book. And our librarian starts to read the book, understand the book, and starts trying to decide which place to put this book into the library catalog. There are different types of books. It may be a thriller, it may be a romance novel, it may be a history book, etc. So here the library is the Google or any other search engine. The librarian is of course the crawler. So our crawler just come across this fancy book, aka the web page, and tries to crawl it and understands the context out of it. And then, of course, the librarian tries to find a place. So our crawler tries to find a place in indexing for a specific book. And after that, the new book, after added to the library's catalog, people will come and look for the new book, and it will get ranked in the library search box. When you go to a library and open the computer and start to look for something in a library, you will get a ranking list, right? So that ranking is like the algorithm Google used to hierarchically rank pages for a set of search results. Actually, this is whole the process of crawling, indexing, and ranking. I know it may be a little bit confusing at the beginning, but don't worry. When you read more and more, you start to understand the concept. So as a beginner, you may ask that how can you understand the pages indexed here? There are a few ways that you can use. For example, if you have access to the Google Search Console of your web page, you can always use this section. This is called URL inspection tool. You can copy and paste your URL here, and it tells you whether the page is scrolled and indexed properly. If you see green checks here, everything is okay. But if you don't see anything here, like a gray space with no green boxes, green checks, then it means that your pages isn't indexed at that moment. If you don't have access for Google Search Console, there are other ways, of course. For example, Christina Azarenko has a really, really cool Chrome extension called SEO Pro extension. You can use it with Google Chrome, and you can just check here while checking a web page whether it is no index or no follow, that it has no index attribute here. So it is a really good starting point for a beginner. And of course, in order to be sure about the indexing part of a specific web page that you will publish, there are some really basic steps. There's a checklist here. So in your website, you should avoid any server errors here. In order to find server errors, you need to visit again Google Search Console. There's a cool place called coverage reports. You can see all of the errors there. You should add internal links to your specific page because Google needs to find it, and Google needs to find the relevancy of the page. I'm going to talk about them in later slides. Of course, you should avoid indications that Google should stay away from the page. For example, in this example that I leave, it can be a no index attribute to prevent the indexing point, or it can be a disallowed instruction in a robot.txt file. These are the things that give the signal to Google that you should okay, buddy, you should stay away from this page. You have no business with this page. And of course, you make sure that you're not telling Google to index a different page. So what do I mean to index a different page? Actually, it's another sad story for me. Let's talk about it a little bit. So sometimes you may need to create mass content pages. And in order to create them, you just copy and paste same pieces of content across the pages. That's the thing actually I did. That's not the good old way to do it, but that's the way I did it because I was saving time. I didn't have to write all of the content for guides, blog articles, product feature pages. I was the genius here. But of course, as an end result, there were no organic traffic or no organic keywords ranking for the content pages I created. And I realized that something is not right with these pages, and it may be related to content. And at that point, I start to look for keywords like, okay, copying and pasting content is a bad thing. Is it a bad thing or not? I remember making these searches on Google. I'm not ashamed of it because that's the point I start learning SEO. And of course, I learned about duplicate content and canonical URLs, canonical tags. In order to get visibility for your content, this is not a secret, everyone. In order to get visibility for your content, each piece of content you should create should be unique. So my way was not the good way. If you copy and paste content across the pages, it will cause duplicate content problem, and probably you will not get proper traffic for a specific company page or a specific feature page, and that will be a problem. If you have to create duplicate content pages due to your category structure, for example, or if you are working on an e-commerce website and you need to create a single page for every color alternative or size alternative, then you need to use canonical text to give the signal to Google so that it can choose to index a specific page and ignore the other copies. So it may be confusing. I remember that canonical URLs was a hard concept for me to learn during my learning progress. So if we try to explain it in a simpler way, it's like talking with Google like this. Okay, Google, dude, I have 3 pages, A, B, and C. They're completely same with each other. They're copies, but I want you to read just A page because I want that page to be visible on Google search results, but I want B and C. I don't want B and C there, and you should totally ignore them. So I don't want you to read them, dude. So I'm using canonical URLs here. So, and my canonical URL will be A. Please ignore them. Please don't make me unhappy. Please, I'm begging you for this. It's a funny way to talk about it, but canonical tags are practically like that, of course. If you don't want to use canonical tags, you can always delete duplicate copies and apply 301 redirections for these URLs. That's the better solution, but you cannot do this thing all the time because of the category structures or e-commerce structures sometimes. And when I mentioned 301 redirections, I just remember 2 or 3 more sad stories about it because that was a complicated concept for me too. So I just want to talk about how did I struggle with URL changes and 301 redirections at this point. Again, one day I decided to update the blog post's title, and of course, why not? I changed the URL structure so that the title and the URL could be the same. But guess what did I forget? I forgot something. And I'm crying, obviously, because I did not redirect the old URL to the new one. And I did not realize that because I didn't know that that was a really big problem. And a week later, one of my colleagues told me that the blog pages, the daily traffic dropped from 500 to 50. And he asked me whether I did a 301 redirection or not for that specific URL. And I answered him like, 301 what? Because I don't know, and I don't know what 301 redirection is at that point. But when I learned that traffic dropped because of that URL changed, I learned that what a 301 redirection was. It was not something funny, but I learned something from my mistakes. So a 301 redirect is a permanent redirect that passes the full ranking power of a ring. So if you are changing a URL and if you have a really dangerous stuff here, actually, this is the tricky business. If you need to change a URL and if you have a possibility of traffic loss and visibility loss, please don't forget to redirect your old URL to the new version because you will lose traffic. And decreasing from 500 to 50 was a learning point for me. But imagine you are running a website like 20,000 clicks a day and you change all of the URL structures and now your new traffic decreased to 1,000 after a week. So it's a really shocking thing. You should be careful about URL changes and redirections. But that's not the only time I had problem with 301 redirections, unfortunately. And there's another question here, and it's obviously should we apply 301 redirection for each 404 pages? So this is a question I asked a lot in the past because I had really sad stories about it, and let me share it with you. Again, at some point we start to work with an SEO agency in that same company, and they sent a list of 404 pages to me and told me to redirect them whatever page I wanted. So that's the dangerous part here. I'm not sharing 404 pages with my clients right now and telling them that you can redirect them whatever page you want, because that's really dangerous. We shouldn't do that. And since we were a startup, we had limited software development power, so they had created me a panel for, of course, tier 1 redirections. I was the responsible who will do that. And I redirected a 404 URL, including a comma. And it was nothing serious for me. I just chose to redirect it. Then the developer deployed the changes on the website, but something wasn't right because the website crashed and had server error response code for almost 40 minutes. And this 40 minutes were the highest traffic time for all the ads and organic traffic and highest conversion time. And we lost money because of it, because up to that time, nobody thought to add an instruction for, okay, there's a 301 panel here, but okay, you should ignore all the comma links all the links, including a comma or a question mark or a dash. And at that point, the developers learned that they should have done it because I'm not a proper person to know it at that point. And there was another problem, of course, because I'm like a poet owner, I'm like a magnet of problems here. And I also redirected an API link with 404 response, of course. And because of that, the website did not get any conversions within the software they are using for 10 days. So obviously, the B2B website was marketing and cloud-based bookkeeping software, and there are some API URLs allowing them to get conversions within the trial period of the software. But since I redirected them, they couldn't get any redirections for 10 days, and we couldn't know how much conversions we lost because of it. The developers were so angry with me at that point, but I said, what can I do? Sometimes I don't have any knowledge about it, but I learned it right now. I would ask for the second time, and they understand that, of course, and they helped me a lot at that point. And if we come back to my question of whether we should redirect every 404 page or not, I think we don't need to redirect every 404 page here. And we should consult a developer in the process if you're not sure about the URLs you're about to redirect. And if there will be a case of traffic loss after a URL change, please don't forget to redirect it to the new version. So it's a kind of sad story, but I want to talk a little bit about the image files too, because there is some funny stuff going on there. One day I created a landing page and added a hero image to the top of the page. It was a really cool image, it was a really clear image, and I guess the page was perfect. However, the page was not fully loading in 15 seconds. There was obviously a problem with the page speed. And when I tried to add a blog content, another blog content to the CMS we are using, it was giving the message, error message, there is no space left. So what is the problem here? I did everything right, but the CMS is wrong and they gave me a broken CMS. What am I gonna do here? I'm merely a content writer here. So what's wrong with the CMS tool? I was furious and I went to the developer to ask, why is this not working? Why is this happening? I remember the previous part, the feeling of it. And of course, the developer started to check the problem. And I'm not exaggerating, but when he understood the problem, this is the face he looked at me. He both cried and got angry with me because the image that I uploaded was 12 megabytes, and that's not the image. That's not the only image I uploaded to the website. There are tons of images like that. So until that point, 12 megabytes was not a big file size for me, but I learned that in terms of web page terminology, megabytes are really big, and you shouldn't upload that kind of big files, especially image files, to your website. It was hard to learn, and it was painful to learn and painful to see this face, but I learned something anyhow. So if you don't want to come across the same problem for the images, you should properly size your images before uploading them, not to have space or page speed related problems. And if you are not sure about the size of the images that you should use, you can always ask a web developer, or if you are working with an SEO agency, you can ask them for the proper image size. They would be happy to share them with you because it will affect their page speed and core web vitals strategies too. And this is not a page speed or space related stuff, but try adding image alt text for each image because it helps you to become visible in image search results. And if you're lucky, you can get traffic out of it. I just dropped a really cool guide here for that too. Of course, when it comes to content writing, please don't forget about internal linking. It's real serious. I don't have a really sad story or dramatic story about it, but it's a really important topic in terms of content writing. So what is an internal link? We can just describe it's any link from one page to another web page on your website. It helps you to create a link map for your web pages. And sometimes if you are working with an SEO, you will hear them talking about anchor text. It seems so sexy and it seems so fancy, but it's not complicated as it seems. Anchor text actually means the word you added the hyperlink of the page while doing internal linking, so don't worry about it. You may ask, why is it important? Why should I do internal linking? It will take a lot of time for me to find the correct pages for internal linking, but they allow users to navigate a website and they help establish an information hierarchy for your website. It's actually like a user manual. Just think that you have a new TV and you open the user manual. And when you open it at the beginning, you will probably see a table of contents and it will say that for this problem or for this topic, go and see this page. For this topic, go and see this page. Actually, internal linking in a content just like that, it provides you a user-friendly environment. And if the users are looking for more information about the topic you are just mentioning there, they will just click there and go to that page naturally. So it's a really user-friendly application. Just don't think that it's only about SEO or it's only about Google bots. So you should also think about your users here, your traffic and your visitors, of course. So just think it like a user manual. And if you're not sure about it or how to do it, you can always get help from an SEO, or you can always get help from other online resources. There's a plenty of resources out there. And this, I added, I think, one of the best one here, learningseo.io. It's a really good reading material for beginners. You should definitely go and see it. And this is all for my presentation today. If you want to have a chat about content SEO or technical SEO, you can reach me via email, LinkedIn, or Twitter. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you guys for having me here today.
Thank you for your presentation and for sharing your story, huh? Because I think then all of us that feel your pain and know what you're speaking about. We have learned the hard way also, no? Maybe the 12 megabyte that
Batman, yeah.
are left, but that's good one. But yes, I really feel that a lot of us know what you're speaking about. We have learned it, and it was
I'm so
hardcore for
lucky
all of
because
us.
they didn't fire me.
So,
Yeah, I was lucky because I learned them in a startup. So you are more flexible while working in a startup environment because everyone makes mistakes and everyone tries to learn something out of it. But if you are working in a corporate company and do the same mistakes that I did, then it's serious business. That's why I want to share with you all the problems I came across, because this is a really good and funny story. That wasn't funny at that point.
but I'm sure then you were doing pretty good in the startup because normally startup need people dynamic. So even if you had some errors, they bypass it, and for sure you did pretty good. By the way, that is your T-shirt, no? The T-shirt
Yes.
of the startup that
No,
you
this
work.
is my agency
Yeah.
t-shirt, by the way. This is Bustra's t-shirt. I just wanted to say hello to Bustra's with my t-shirt today. And by the way, there are really good stuff going on in chat box. The coma of the doom. I love it. I love that. Thank you very much.
So okay. So I feel that it was a really nice your presentation. True story. Yeah. Again, we feel the pain of Brenda there. Do somebody have questions, or maybe just story to share? Because yes, it's also fun in the story than they're sharing here. If you have some questions, it's easier for you to answer. There is an asking question session here, or you can directly ask on the chat. I mean, we are monitoring the chat all the time now because yeah, it's not like Zoom is always open.
Well, thanks for your honesty, Busra, because it's kind of hard to say online, live, what you did wrong. I suppose it was sufficiently long ago that you can talk about it, but in the moment, I expect you were pretty uncomfortable, especially about the 10 days without conversion. That must have been really hard. But at least you had a supporting team and you moved from
even
it,
the IT
right?
manager did not realize that for 10 days. So that's not a big, that wasn't a big problem.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's on them, right?
6 years ago, and it's the point that I decided to learn SEO because I just realized that content writing is not enough for me. I need to do more, and I need to understand this more. I'm not doing the same mistakes, guys. Don't worry. I'm talking to the listeners right now.
Oh, but don't worry. We all did mistakes, no? It's very common doing mistakes. It's the way then you learn, and then you remember them. No, I don't remember who said in the chat. You do a mistake, then you remember it. When you don't do it, you don't remember it. So it's fine. I remember once a guy told me, Sarah, then you do mistake, it's okay. Nobody cares. It's okay, provided then you correct them. So it's true. So you do it, it's okay, and then you try to correct them and fix the problem. So it's fine.
In a learning environment, making the same mistake twice or the third time is not a good thing. So that's why I always try to learn it and never do it again.
But then there are mistakes, then it's more easy to redo.
If I do have a question while we wait if there's someone who has a question, like, because I suppose when you write content, you can write it and then you expect the content to sort of live on the web and you don't go back to it when you have the role of a writer. But then if you are a writer who starts questioning a bit more, what would be your advice? Where would you start?
I would
Which part first?
Actually, most of the content writers tend to do that, but it's not a specific thing to content writers. Sometimes marketing specialists also do the same thing. So they publish a content and just leave it there out of the Google jungle. I call it Google jungle. And they never return to see the performance of it. I don't know why, but I would probably start with getting an access to the Google Search Console because it's like the temple of every content writer and SEO because it shows you any problem you have with the web page or the performance of the content. I would probably start getting access to Google Search Console, and I would use URL inspection tool that I mentioned, whether the link is working or not. And probably I would also check the performance of the URL. There are different fancy URL mechanisms and regex codes there. And I would just check the performance, and if it's not getting any good performance after a month, I would start updating it because, marketers works with perfection through iteration. Motto should work with it. Yeah, so the summary is that you shouldn't forget it.
So basically first check that crawlers can access the content. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And then check the performance.
Yeah, if it's working.
And see if it's good enough.
Yeah, if you have a chart like this one, so it's okay. But if you have nothing, 0, then there's a problem.
So which means that you had an objective when you wrote the content. You were expecting something, right? I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's not always the case. Sometimes you are asked to publish content and you don't know really why. So
yeah, if you're a newbie, now I'm calling it newbie because I was a newbie at that 6 years ago at that point that I made the mistakes. So you came across a website and they told you to publish a content and you don't know why you're publishing the content. You're just writing it, your manager likes it, your teammates likes it, then you publish it. But without knowing why you publish it and what you will achieve with content, you would probably get nothing out of it. So actually, people believe that content, some people, I'm not generalizing them, but some people believe that content doesn't have any ROI or return of investment, what you call it, but actually content have a ROI, and if you know how to look at it.
Perfect.
Yeah, and probably if you can prove that your content has some performance, then it gives you like arguments to have more budget to write more content. So it could be a good thing to
For most of the
check.
people coming to me with, they have really huge blogs and they keep saying that, okay, we want to publish content 5 times a week. We should do this, we should do that. But I just tell them that just calm down, just check the performance of the existing URLs, existing content, because without solving the problem, that there's no reason of creating more and more content and just spending your money out there. So we should be patient about content production, and we should know why we are producing it. Again, I am saying it.
So there is a question. Okay.
Do you think that?
Go.
Oh, sorry.
Go.
Do you think that making the mistakes help you get some budgets and resources to do some training? Like, how can you? I mean, if you're hired to create content, and you want to learn about the Search Console and technical stuff, but you have no time to do it, how can you argue? Like, you need to make a case,
So
right?
for the SEO part, when I first started my job, I told them that I have no knowledge and I don't have time to read about stuff. If you have a full-time job in some specific area instead of SEO, of course, you won't have time because your mind will always be focused on that topic. But I was lucky because they provided me some entry-level SEO courses. I attended them, but of course they're not enough because they're aiming to teach you SEO in a day, technical SEO in a day. Come on, how is it possible? It's just an introduction. They luckily provided me with that, and after I made some mistakes, we realized that I need to work with an SEO. So okay, we need to get consultancy from an SEO agency, and while working with the agency, I realized what I want and what I expect from an agency or not. And at that point, after a while, we changed the SEO agency. Actually, after that we met with Busra and Roman, and actually he is the person that taught me SEO, the introductional part of the SEO, and he helped me to love SEO at that point. After a while, I decided to be an SEO instead of a content writer because I realized that my content strategy muscles are better than just writing it. And
Love this last sentence. Listen, there is somebody then say, when did you say, I know these jobs, this job, I know SEO? So there is one thing then I can do here. I don't know if somebody is interested. When you ask in the question, in the ask a question part, I can bring you on stage if you want to ask directly the question. If somebody is interested, just let me know. No? Okay. Okay. Not everybody together and saying, yes, Sarah, we want. But again, so when did you realize it?
when I want to become...
When can you say, I know SEO?
I know this job, I know SEO.
So I'm not still saying that I 100% know SEO because it's a really broad, term. There are a lot of specialties, and there's a misconception in Turkey. However, people believe that you need to know every aspect of SEO if you're an SEO specialist. You need to know all the stuff about core web vitals, content strategy, local SEO, everything you can imagine. But it's not like that in other countries. Some of us just introduce us as local SEO specialists, some of us as technical SEOs, and some of us as content SEOs or content SEO strategists. There are a lot of different titles. So I cannot say that I know SEO 100% because there are a lot of stuff that I just want to learn. There are a lot of different concepts that we can try. But After 2 years, I started to believe that, okay, I can work as an SEO and I can help people as a consultant in SEO business. That's like 2.5 years because I'm working here for 2 years, and 2 years before that, then 6 months before that, I started to do some serious SEO job, like 2.5 years.
So it was what we were discussing today morning, no? Then it was really you can know everything about SEO nowadays, so you get a little bit more specialized.
Yes.
But I think if you work with anything that is SEO related, you are an SEO even if you're a beginner. So there is not a point, like this is not a private circle where you have to do something special to be part of the band. I mean, if this is what if this is what you're doing, then you are an SEO. And also something another guest said before Christmas, Tessa, I don't know if you were there, but she said there is a market fit for everyone. So as a beginner, you can help like smaller companies, but it's all about knowing the limits of what you can do and the level of complexity that you can handle. And I do think that you are an excellent SEO where you know how far you can go. Like when the task is a notch too hard, but you can manage it, and when you have to ask for help before
Yeah.
it goes wrong. Like at the beginning you don't know, but at some points you know when you don't know, and that's when you have to ask. And I suppose it's just okay to bring someone on the project and say, hey, well, I, I'm not a specialist in use SEO, and I need some help, and I can do this, but then I can't do that, and that's
Yeah,
okay.
before becoming a manager here in Busra, I just have the misunderstanding that I just had the misunderstanding that I need to know everything about SEO. But after I started to be a manager and run a team, I just realized that I don't have to know everything because I also have to run a team here efficiently so that our brands doesn't go churn. So I need to keep the brands as long as possible without any problems, and of course increase their metrics, and they should be happy out of it. It's not always only keeping about the brands there to work longer, but you should provide some value to them. And as M, I don't know who M is, but at that point you should really know how to delegate the jobs. For example, I have a guy, Adam from our weekly SEO live stream. He's our tech guy. he's he's specialized in page core web vitals, and I'm a content strategist and a site migration. I specialize in internal linking and site migrations right now. And of course, Roman has so much knowledge about everything, but he also says that he's specialized in log file analysis, and he wants to do that more and make log file analysis for big websites. So we always, everyone, one of us has a dream here, but it's not that knowing every subject about SEO.
So there is Brandon that asked a question. I've learned that Busra is an excellent organizer. I would love to know that organizational tool she prefers, like ClickUp or Trello or whatever.
So for delegating jobs, you will probably need a really good project management tool. I prefer using Asana for that. We are using Asana. But it's not only about organizational tools. You should have close relationships with your team. I know being an organizer takes a lot of time. You have a lot of responsibilities there, but you need to just create some time for your team because everyone is important. And if you want them to take some of your responsibility, you need to create some time for them, and they should feel special because they are special because they have something, and you're trusting them to work with you and run projects with you. And of course, holding meetings. For example, holding meetings is another important thing. Regular meetings. We are using agile marketing methods. We work in sprints. At the beginning of every week, we just come together and we talked about our weekly sprints and what should we do or what shouldn't we do. But every member of our team knows what should they do by the end of the week. They make their plans and we go over them for their weekly plans and we try to organize them. So working in sprints and using a really good project management tool and creating some time for your team is the key to success for me, I guess. But of course, I have two important helpers for me. Without Roman and Adem, I guess Adem is here. It wouldn't be so easy for me. So yeah, choosing with whom you will work is an important thing.
So you know what we do daily with the team, we do daily. And I transform the daily in a discussion to know better my team, the team that I work with. But nobody complain, so it's fine. So we do the daily, we do what we have to do in a daily, but at the same time, so if you are blocked, not blocked, a problem. But at the same time, we also discuss about our private life and it creates connection.
Yeah, private life is also important because they may have some problems. Of course, they won't reflect it to their jobs, but seeing them that you're interested in them, their personal life also helps because they are not machines.
No,
They are
and
human beings. Yeah.
especially if there is a problem in their private life, they are more open in saying it, and then you can cover up because then sometimes it impacts work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you use Slack, Donut is pretty fun, but it only comes with the paying version of Slack. But the concept can be easily used. It's like very simple topics, like water cooler topics, and you randomly meet with someone from your team every week, and you discuss those water cooler topics. But it's really topics like what is your favorite walk, or what is the most beautiful walk you have ever done, or something really like a high level that anyone can discuss but still have a connection about. So yeah, I really like Donuts, but I'm pretty sure there are other apps very similar to that
While
that are
looking
fun.
for any apps, you can always start with sharing a song to the team channel. Okay, I'm listening to this and I'm just dancing.
Yeah.
What are you listening, guys? Just fire me some good suggestions for songs. We did that a lot in the past. It also helps. Feeling like
Yeah.
a part of a team is important. When you don't feel it, you don't have loyalty, you don't have trust with each other. So it's hard to build relationships.
True story. I agree with you. So anybody else have some questions?
Yeah, that would be the last question, I suppose. My
Yeah,
God,
exactly,
it
because
went
it's
so
almost
fast.
7 and for you it's 9 o'clock. I think then it's time for you to have dinner and relax a bit. So if nobody else have other question, we let her go. No more question one? Isolina has a question.
But no, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to share. So again, our Twitter and Busra's Twitter, because if the question arrive later in your head, you can always ask us. And I mean, if you're more comfortable with a private message, just send us or Bushra a private message. So, I mean, if you have a question that comes later, just don't stay alone with it. Just share it with anyone, with us if you like, or with anyone. But that it's sometimes hard to ask, but really it's going to help you learn and grow. So come to us.
Yeah, just come and say hello and connect with us. I would be happy to talk with you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So as
Thank
you
you
can
for
see,
this
everybody's
opportunity.
happy. You have a lot of thank you passing up. So thank you so much, and have a nice evening to everybody who is evening. If it is morning, have a nice morning. I don't know. Okay. So ciao. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.